Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar titled A New Kind of Digital Transformation Hero. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets that you can use. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit your questions in the Q&A box, and they will be answered at the end of our presentation. You can also expand your slide area by clicking on the Maximize icon on the top right of your slide viewer. And if you have any technical difficulties, please click Help, the Help widget. If you can please take a moment to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar, that would also be fantastic. So hello and welcome to Insight's webinar, A New Kind of Digital Transformation Hero. My name is Michelle Rowe, and I will be serving as moderator for today's conversation. You hear it constantly today: digital transformation, innovate, transform, or perish. And there's a reason for it. Undoubtedly, digital transformation initiatives offer powerful and intelligent ways to enhance business operations, employee performance, and customer engagement. But transformation projects involved a certain amount of calculated risk, unique technical expertise, and masterful orchestration of people and technology. So even as companies pursue what they hope to be a winning digital transformation initiative, the journey to meaningful outcomes is often anything but smooth. In fact, 51% of organizations have stalled or abandoned some transformation initiatives. 44% have made no process, operational, or technology changes to their environment. 62% have not documented or communicated a transformation strategy at all. 74% of IoT initiatives are deemed stuck or unsuccessful, and 60% of IoT initiatives end up proving more complex than originally expected. So today's challenging technology landscape really calls for a new kind of digital hero. In today's webinar, we're introducing the Super Solution Integrator, or SSI, and demonstrating how this new breed of system integrators is a game changer in digital innovation. So before we jump in, I do want to introduce you to our incredible panel of subject matter experts. From Insight, we have Matt Jackson. Matt is the Vice President and National General Manager for the Digital Innovation Team. We also have Mike Gaumond, the Senior Vice President and General Manager for Connected Workforce. Now, Matt and Mike bring a really broad range of firsthand digital transformation experience, both having walked numerous clients through this process. Now, also today, we have joining us our Tiffany Sargent, and she is the Chief IoT Architect and Senior Principal Engineer for Intel. And we also have Jason Langlis, who is the Director of IoT Worldwide Channel Sales for Microsoft. So welcome, everybody. We are very excited to have you all here. So with that, let's dive right in. Now, Matt, I'm going to start with you. Walk us through today's technology landscape and explain for us, who is the new digital transformation hero?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Appreciate it. The landscape's complicated right now. We work with a lot of clients that are trying to stay up to date with the latest technologies. There's a lot of disruption happening within industry, and a lot of that is caused by innovations in technology that are transforming entire landscape. We find that on average, one of our clients tackling one of these digital transformation projects, especially around smart devices, intelligent edge, IoT, requires more than 10 partners or vendors to help them achieve success on that project. So it's not just about building the expertise in the individual domains. It's also being that general contractor and having to manage all of those individual partners and individual components that it takes to successfully run one of these digital transformation projects. And so that's why we've introduced this Super Solution Integrator concept. It really brings together all the capabilities that are required to deliver on that digital transformation journey. So it starts out with understanding what's causing that, what's the catalyst for disruption in our client's industry. What are they trying to achieve? Is it staying ahead of the competition? Is it launching a new product or service? And then mapping that to an overall roadmap so that we can partner with them and provide those project management services. Really that general contractor capability to walk them through that whole project. They know their business better than we do. And so somebody sitting in an IT department or heading up an R&D group within an organization, we're not going to come in and tell them how to run their business, but we do bring that experience of having run these transformation projects for hundreds, probably thousands at this point of clients. So walking them through that whole life cycle and bringing in all those technical capabilities, as well as the partners that are required to see that through to the end. And then, making sure that we're handing it off successfully through, great change management or through managed services, so we can help them really focus on, what they care most about, which is running their business and not developing new technology. So if you pull that all together, you kind of see a roadmap of what Insight has assembled to try to achieve this SSI vision. We've got 5,500 partners, so I think that starts with all the great technology that individual software vendors, cloud vendors, device vendors bring to bear. So really lucky to have Microsoft and Intel on the line here, representing some of the best of the partners that we work with. But just kind of knowing who to bring in what scenario is one of the most complicated things that anybody has to tackle when they're doing one of these projects. We've worked with companies that are literally spending hundreds of millions of dollars on transformation, both from a business and a technical perspective. And the amount of RFPs that they need to put out there, the amount of vendor evaluations that they need to do is so time-consuming that they can't focus on the success of their business, the success of that project. So bringing in those partners allows us to have the go-to for the best of the best, depending on the scenario that our clients need. Deep expertise, so that's where our business is technology. So rather than an organization having to be an expert in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, software development, software lifecycle, DevOps, I could go on, and I'm sure we'll hit on some of these during the course of this conversation. That is the core of our business. And so we've got thousands of teammates that are focused on the cutting edge, really being thought leaders in their space to not just understand the technology that exists today, but try to see where it's heading in the future. And they can bring that expertise to bear in executing one of these projects. And then finally, I mentioned it as I introduced the Super Solution Integrator, but the end-to-end capability. So we have business analysts who work with our clients to understand the drivers and the ROI. We've got project managers, not just on the software side, but really from the all-up logistics. So, we might be doing a solution that requires people to go out in the field and install devices, all the way through to people writing, data science algorithms to do predictive analytics. And so understanding how you weave that all together into a key piece of project is really important. And then, as I mentioned, that the ability to hand this off is sometimes the most critical part of the project. A lot of projects make it to the finish line and then just can't get over because they don't have those organizational change management specialists, training specialists, and managed services capabilities for those clients that maybe need to go through this journey, but don't necessarily want to stand up all the capabilities to manage it in the future, especially if they're going cloud native. There's much more efficient ways to provide managed services for these types of solutions once they're out in the wild.
All right, fantastic. And before we continue, Matt, my next question is also for you. But before we continue, I do want to remind our audience, if you have any questions, please make sure to enter them into the question and answer chat box, and we'll address as many as we possibly can at the end of today's discussion. All right, so Matt, back to you. We started off the conversation today with some pretty big facts around digital transformation initiatives and really some of the things that are challenges with our clients. So when you talk to our clients, are you seeing a pattern of common challenges that companies are facing, and how can our listeners really hope to avoid those challenges?
Yeah, I think the first one there you have around stalled projects. One of the main reasons we see this stall is, there's not a very well-defined ROI for a lot of these. So going in there and trying to justify that in front of a board or in front of a leadership team can be challenging. And that, even if you get the support, then you've got to go through a complex process, as I mentioned, of RFPs, finding all the different partners. And if anybody's been through that process, on both sides of the RFP process, it can be pretty painful. And so what we see is, having all these partners and all these vendors that have to be managed adds complexity that stalls those projects. Also, just the siloed communications that happen. You've got all these different components of a project. So you might have somebody installing devices, somebody writing software, somebody, doing the business requirements, somebody doing, testing, and they're not always interconnected. And so for us, having that lack of visibility across the whole project is one of the key reasons that we see those projects fail when we don't have that, SSI or general contractor who's really responsible. I think you mentioned the one throat to choke, really responsible for the overall success of the project. And then finally, the expertise to make those informed decisions. I think, we see decisions based on kind of a siloed view of a problem. I think because we bring the experience of, having, decades of having done digital transformation projects, we know where the pitfalls are. We know kind of, if you want to take the roadmap analogy, we know the exits you should take and the exits you shouldn't take. And so just walking or hand-holding through that process, I think avoids those failure points.
Okay, perfect. So, but why does it need to be a super solution integrator? Why aren't traditional system integrators enough?
Yeah, so let's start with the traditional systems integrator, and that's where I've been in that space for a long time, and we really focused on developing the best software solutions we could possibly develop. And while that was really important, when a client came to us and said, "Okay, that's a great solution. Now we need to deploy it to 1,000 new devices out in the field, and they need to be ruggedized." The solution integrator would say, "Well, good luck with that, right? We wrote great software. I don't touch the hardware or the infrastructure, right?" I probably, this is off script, but there's a joke. How many software engineers does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, the answer is 0, because that's a hardware problem. They don't focus on that. And so for us, bringing together all those capabilities of the SI, the integration piece, the software development piece, as well as the traditional Insight legacy is around that LSP or that VAR, procuring the hardware, procuring the software, having all those partner channels. And then in the middle, you tie it together with things like, labs and deployment. So you've procured the hardware, but now you need to get the image on it, load the software on it, set up the security and the account management, and actually get that out to an end user, whether that's a kiosk that goes into a retail store or whether it's a ruggedized laptop that goes out to a field scenario. It's important to have all of that. And I guess finally, really all of the infrastructure to support that. So whether that's cloud, whether it's edge, whether it's hybrid, making sure that you can handle it all the way from kind of, the edge to the cloud. So for us, having that full landscape, we didn't fall into an SI bucket. You don't really fall into an LSP bucket. It really required some new concept or new terminology. And that's where we came up with SSI.
Okay, great. So you've explained what the Super Solution Integrator is. What does it look like in practice?
Yeah, in practice, well, I think we've got some great case studies we wanted to talk about today. But like I mentioned, companies, organizations are spending, millions, tens of millions. In one case, I worked with a client that was spending $400 million on transformation. And there are so many things that come up when you're investing or placing that big of a bet on transforming an organization that you need to get it right? There's no room for failure in those types of scenarios. So I think we've got a video ready. We can transition into that so you don't need to hear me tell the whole story, and then we'll pick it up from there.
Perfect.
It's absolutely imperative to keep public spaces safe. BeSafe Technologies is a company that provides emergency preparedness plans to first responders, whether that be police, fire, EMS.
Aldine is an urban school district. It covers 111 miles and has about 67,000 students that we serve. Safety is a priority.
A challenge a first responder might run into in managing information in time of crisis is being able to access building floor plans or any pertinent contact information.
There was really nothing standardized, a way to get information out to a police officer or a firefighter.
Insight, we're a super aggregator. We've been in the IT industry for over 30 years. We've worked with BeSafe and other partners to create a system where you can share information. ActiveShield is a module with Insight's connected safety platform. What we've been able to do is take these traditional PDF floor plans and create a virtual digital twin of those. All of this is hosted and enabled on the Microsoft Azure Cloud Platform. As a result of having a digital twin, first responders can safely share and collaborate in real time the information that they need to be able to help people. The Insight Connected Safety Platform allows us to interconnect all of these various different devices and IoT sensors and to create a single view of what's going on in real time.
with Insight. We were able to build a third-party solution accelerator called Project Edison. We all came together, and BeSafe's platform that had existed for 20 years was just the other piece of this puzzle. Being able to leverage that platform with IoT and connected devices, there was a synergy there.
In a real-life situation, in case there's something happening in hallway 100, the principal, the Aldin police, or Aldin administration will be able to send an alert to all the classroom in their school with the specific instruction, what you need to do step by step.
You're going to automatically see some cost advantage. It will allow us to move more in an expedient way to know what we need to do as a district for the safety and security of our students and staff.
This is applicable to factories, retail, schools, campuses, cities.
ActiveShield, IoT integrated devices is 100% the future of public safety in any space.
Insight, Connected Safety, and BeSafe Technologies help save lives based on the Microsoft Azure platform.
I think it's going to be revolutionary in terms of how people respond to an emergency in a public location.
All right. Well, that was really powerful. And now I'm going to turn over back to you, Matt. But also, I want to welcome Jason from Microsoft to chat about this with you.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And obviously, that's a powerful video, as you mentioned. And I bring that up because it really tells a number of important stories. The first is the human element. I think we all want to live in a world where these types of solutions aren't required in schools, but the reality is schools need to be thinking about creating a safe environment. They need to be connecting into the community so that people are aware of what's happening real time, both first responders, as we showed in that video, as well as parents and other constituents in the community that need to be engaged to create these safe environments. And so for us, when we engaged with the city of Houston and started talking about this solution, it was important that we focused on the outcome. So for them, they, as I mentioned before, they don't have the capabilities to go out there and do RFPs for every component. You've got, sensors in classrooms that are listening for gunshots. You've got lighting in the hallways that are actually turning different colors to indicate safe zones or danger zones. You've got smart boards in the classrooms that are converting to display, emergency messages if there's a lockdown, or, it doesn't have to be the worst case scenario. It could even just be, the smoke detectors went off, which obviously could turn into a bad scenario, or it could just be that somebody, a middle school kid pulled the fire alarm. So there's a lot of different scenarios that come up here that we want to create that integrated experience so that the schools can focus on, teaching kids in a safe environment and not having to be an expert in, sensor technology, edge device technology, cloud capabilities, the data and AI. I mean, one of the things about this solution that's really powerful is that, we can correlate an event happening at the edge. So say a sensor goes off, smoke detector, or an alarm. Feed that up into the cloud, correlate that against other data, video cameras, sensors, push messages out into the school, run predictive learning or machine learning and predictive analytics algorithms to actually try to understand, what might be happening on the ground and maybe other actions and warnings that we should take. And then finally, feeding that out to fire and police and other first responders so if they get a call that there's an emergency, if you saw in that video, they're able, say they're in the fire truck and they're headed there, they're able to use a smart device, a phone or a tablet, connect into the floor plan of the school, see where the incident is, tap into a camera and actually see what's happening live. So it's a whole integrated project rolled out across multiple schools in the school district, very repeatable, that allows us to kind of, figure out all that technology and handle the complexity for the school system and ultimately drive that outcome that they're looking for, as opposed to having them, break it down and build out every component of the solution.
Fantastic, Matt. Love the solution and love the video. And it's absolutely about driving outcomes, whether it's a particular use case scenario, solving for a pain point, or delivering upside value. And I think, building out that repeatable IP is at the core, absolutely. The repeatability aspect allows for that rinse and repeat motion. So to be able to deploy to location 2, 5, 10, et cetera, at broader scale. And on top, the repeatable solution being architected at an 80% level allows for applicability across other horizontal verticals and industry use case scenarios. So then you could take that last 20% customization, last mile, to be applied across that horizontal use case. For example, manufacturing, retail, hospitality, healthcare. And Matt, I think the other aspect of these edge-to-cloud repeatable IoT solutions is the extensibility. The starting point is data being captured in many instances, and then the insight gained from that allows the end customer to take action based on the insight. So a solution deployment, for example, may start out using a highly secure Azure Sphere device at the edge, and then may evolve into running AI at the edge. An additional endpoint inclusion such as HoloLens, mixed reality, or more advanced Azure IoT analytics on the back end. So really bringing this full circle, when Microsoft is looking to invest in projects like this, we're looking for solutions that drive outcomes, but also ones that create reusable solutions that partners and customers can leverage over and over again.
Perfect. Thanks, Jason. So, Matt, what does this mean for the folks on this webinar? How could this benefit their company regardless of industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the most obvious is that it is a reusable framework. So if they want to take advantage of that, we have taken this same framework that we've built for like a connected safety solution that we just saw for City of Houston and applied that into connected retail. So for, say, a restaurant that instead of connecting in, their fire alarm sensors, they're connecting in their maybe, oven temperature sensors, their freezer temperature sensors, so that they can do correlations to make sure that their, fresh produce is not going bad, that, the meat is being cooked at the right temperature, driving that up into again, using that same, edge to cloud connection, maybe some different, machine learning models that are doing analysis of food safety versus, student safety. But it's a very repeatable model, reusable IP, and just repeatable frameworks. And then the other part is, if they're looking to do something like this, I think it's a pattern. Jason talked about what Microsoft is doing with organizations to build these. I think that it's just a great business model in terms of creating repeatability and kind of plug-and-play solutions. A lot of the partners that we work with, we've got that huge ecosystem, and so we're working with them, not just selling this to clients, but also working with other partners and other organizations. BeSafe was mentioned there in that video. BeSafe is actually they're focused on school safety and really building safety, and they've got decades of experience really working on the business challenge. They've got ex-chief of police, people that really have that expertise in that problem space. So I think for us, it's about creating value for our clients, but also creating an ecosystem. And so our partners, I think there's a huge opportunity to get on board and extend that ecosystem.
Very cool. Yeah, so Jason, go ahead.
I was just going to add to that. So Matt, it really is a unique experience working with Insight. We just don't see a lot of global partners who have that differentiating set of breadth and depth capabilities end to end as a super solutions integrator. In that statement, really includes solving for delivering on an end customer outcome from the initial phase, ideation. So if you're scoping an environment, and then taking that next level to the build-out development, and then really driving that into a go-to-market readiness, sell with deployment motion across hardware, software, and services, going back to that repeat and scale motion. So it's exciting. I mean, this is truly exciting, and it's why Microsoft is strategically investing in, with, and through Insight as a super solution integrator. Roughly 18 months ago, Microsoft made a very public announcement to invest $5 billion in IoT over the next 4 years, and this included prioritization in the IoT product portfolio, R&D, customer opportunity, momentum, and enabling the ecosystem. So you can see the tie-in to the relationship and investment with Insight. And one example of ecosystem enablement, just for broad awareness, is a series of global IoT in action events that are free to the global ecosystem that Microsoft runs and helps really facilitate. The intent of it is partner matchmaking and really showcasing the what if and possible.
Perfect. So, Jason, thank you for highlighting really how this is different from other projects. So, Matt, can you talk about the value of the partnership from Insight's perspective now that we heard Microsoft's as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a great partnership pretty much for as long as Insights existed. But for us, in terms of this exactly, so for this Super Solution Integrator concept, what's really important is creating that ecosystem. So Microsoft has allowed us to kind of partner and develop these types of solutions together, but then they also act as that matchmaker to bring in other partners to the ecosystem to get them on board with that Azure stack to support that IoT initiative. So that investment of $5 billion is going to an internal R&D at Microsoft, but it's also going to fund partner investments, partner development of frameworks like this, as well as seeding client projects. So a lot of these initial projects that we're doing allow us to go out there and kind of prove the value of the solution together with Insight, Microsoft, and our clients, all partnering together to see that initial ROI. I talked about that at the beginning. One of the biggest challenges is kind of making that business case. And so in a lot of situations, we're able to partner together to maybe get that initial, we call it an MVP, minimally viable product off the ground, so that our clients, we can partner with them and go in front of a board or a decision-making group to justify the ROI and actually get the project off the ground. So I think what we've noticed is just Microsoft has been really supportive of the community, not just in funding, but Jason mentioned those IoT in Action events. There's just a lot of resources out there online and in person for people to learn about this ecosystem and for people to participate. We're not just here trying to sell our solution. It's really about creating more of an ecosystem where we're all partnering and benefiting together. And Microsoft has really created that ecosystem.
That's perfect. So Matt and Jason, thank you so much. I am going to go over to Mike and Tiffany for a minute, but don't go anywhere because we're coming back to you in just a little bit. But we've now seen how a Super Solution Integrator can collaborate with a partner like Microsoft to really architect, deploy really quite big, large scale IoT projects. So the Houston safety solution is really a clear answer to a large problem, right? And we all said very, very powerful. But sometimes the challenge an organization really needs to solve for isn't known. They're not actually sure what that looks like. So we can obviously help with that. So companies across many industries are facing intensified competition. We hear about it all the time. We have both traditional, non-traditional competitors, as well as new entries into the market, right, that are looking to disrupt. And no one wants to be the next one that's going to get Ubered. Yes, we are using that as a verb. So hence the need for digital transformation. So Mike, can you and Tiffany kind of walk us through and illustrate how this could play out in some other industries?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Michelle. I'm going to start with a traditional branch banking scenario. So imagine a typical branch bank and think about customers. So let's call her Jennifer. So Jennifer walks into the branch. She gets in line to speak with a teller. After waiting a few minutes to get up to the front of the line, she gets to the teller, and the teller says, "Hello, how can I help you?" And Jennifer says, "I'd like to talk about a loan." Now, the teller doesn't actually work on loans, so she connects Jennifer to a banker. And the banker comes up and starts asking a bunch of questions of Jennifer, like, are you a current customer? Do you already have a loan with us? You get the picture. It's a pretty traditional, but it's a slow and uninformed experience for Jennifer as a customer. So Insight actually partnered with Intel to build an IoT-enabled kiosk. And you can think of this as an intelligent virtual concierge for the bank. So in this new scenario, Jennifer would walk into the bank lobby. She would walk up to the kiosk. The kiosk would use facial recognition to identify her. Once it's identified her, it will analyze her recent banking history, including transactions, her online activity, mobile banking, all the different data that they have. And based on that, would display some likely requests that Jennifer might have on there. And it might be discussing a mortgage, understanding loan options, or talking to a bank manager. And a voice prompt in natural language would say, "Hello, Jennifer. How can we help you today?" And Jennifer would respond with, "I'd like to talk to someone about a loan." And the loan officer would show up in just a couple of minutes. The loan officer would recognize Jennifer because he or she had her photo, and would also have had her background and information, and most likely even some preliminary loan options to discuss with Jennifer. So you can see that with this concept, we've transformed that slow, uninformed customer experience into a more seamless process that delivers a really personalized, relevant, and efficient experience to Jennifer. So that's kind of a concept of using an IoT-enabled kiosk in financial services. So maybe I'll ask Tiffany, can you talk a little bit about some other vertical markets where this might apply beyond banking?
Absolutely. So what I really hope today's listeners understand and can take away from our conversation is really how easy it is to extend or apply some of these IoT use cases to other verticals and other industries. And we're showing on the screen here other areas such as banking and retail and quick serve restaurants and in smart cities and healthcare. And so let me help you imagine what this reapplied innovation would do if you were to, let's say, reapply this to a quick serve restaurant that uses audio and video and payment systems to optimize customer experiences and restaurant efficiencies. So let's say someone's driving up to this quick serve restaurant. A camera might recognize the license plate. Artificial intelligence running in the background might be analyzing the customer history and informing on some of the purchase patterns. The kiosk then will interact with the person driving up and give them a time-relevant menu. It'll remember what they ordered, such as coffee and a bagel, or maybe a venti half-calf soy latte with extra foam at 120 degrees, or maybe an egg croissant. And the system automatically remembers the customer's stored credit card, and it asks if the customer wants to pay cash or charge the remembered card for selected items. So you can think about the experience the customer's having, streamlined and personal. But also think about the quick serve restaurant, what they're gaining from using the technology, such as intelligent inventory management or accelerated food preparation. They'll be able to right-size the workforce, understanding the patterns of how people are consuming what they're selling, and really looking at experiencing and leveraging what Insight can bring to the table, such as the state-of-the-art technology that's being implemented that's maximizing their efficiencies and saving them money. And if you think about just another application beyond the quick serve, think about retail. And think about Jennifer decides she wants to go shopping after learning how much interest she's gotten in the bank or what kind of loan she can take out. And she might walk into a kiosk in a store and have an opportunity to have opted in previously on her smartphone. And when she's walking around the store and interacting with that kiosk, she can get a special coupon that'll save her money and maybe even review some past purchases at the kiosk. And maybe Jennifer, since she might like purses, might be able to view some kind of advertisement on the kiosk that is really tuned to her previous purchases and what her interests are. So hopefully this journey has shared a little bit with you around the reapplied innovations and this concept of this special kind of system integrator, the super system integrator that Insight has, where they can reapply the innovations across a variety of verticals. So Mike, back to you.
Thanks, Tiffany. That was great. Really appreciate it. So we've talked a little bit about this IoT kiosk in banking, in quick serve restaurants, and in retail. Let's look a little bit under the hood, if you will, to consider three basic building blocks of this solution. So first is the physical kiosk itself, and there's a couple elements to it. It's got a camera, a microphone, a speaker. That's what allows it to interact in a natural language and do the facial recognition of the customer. It's got a nice big display that allows you to present those intelligently suggested and relevant options to the customer. And of course, it's powered by an Intel processor, an i5 or Xeon, most likely, depending on the specific use case. So that's the kiosk itself. Within it, there's also an edge software platform that you can think of as an artificial intelligence inference engine. That does a few things. It does the automated speech recognition, which is what you think of with like a voice chatbot kind of application. It does natural language processing to help understand the intent, because we all speak differently and ask questions or make comments in different ways. And it also has web services, so you can do things like multi-factor authentication to ensure security. So that's the edge software platform element of it. And then the third building block is the cloud. So we're leveraging in the cloud the Azure Cognitive Services Engine. And we do a few things here. We do secure device authentication. So for example, in the bank example, we make sure there's not a rogue device in the bank trying to impersonate a kiosk and get into the bank system. There's AI and machine language-based facial recognition engine. And then there's also the management services that we leverage to provide managed services for these solutions on behalf of our clients. So in many ways, if you think about it, the kiosk is actually operating almost as a mini data center sitting at the edge. So Tiffany, maybe could you talk a little bit about how this kiosk actually might operate as a data center at the edge?
I would love to. So let me talk a little bit about how the kiosk works. So if you think about this at the edge, this kiosk at the edge of your system, the kiosk ingests and computes a tremendous amount of data. And basically, it's turning data into information through compute right inside the kiosk. So in fact, you can also think about this mini data center is almost an edge data center. So for example, if you think about the kiosk in a retail store, through edge inferencing, the kiosk could recognize a customer and create those personalized suggestions. A kiosk could recognize if it's a man or a woman standing in front of the kiosk. And as I talked about with Jennifer shopping, she could speak about what she wanted to buy to someone who was walking in the store, or she can have that interaction through a chatbot right at the kiosk. So she could find out information about women's clothing, and the kiosk would know what size she liked. It could tell her, hey, we know you like the color green. You buy everything in green. We're going to provide you with a visual of some of the green clothes that you might want, and also recommend a green purse that you might want to pair with that. We can also work with the kiosk to create a question and answer environment through this natural language processing through the kiosk to say, hey, Jennifer might be holding this shirt in a size large, but she wears a medium. So could she get it in another size? So the kiosk has an opportunity to recognize the blouse, potentially through an RFID tag, a passive RFID tag, and check the inventory and come back and say, we have it in the warehouse. Would you like it to be delivered to your home, or would you like to come back to the store and pick it up? So one of the key things to think about as you start building out this concept of a kiosk as an edge data center is how you can start appending and leveraging additional technology to increase not only the efficiencies and operations of a store, but also continue to increase the happiness and the value to the customer. So by leveraging, let's say, an RFID system to help identify what someone is holding, you can also put up additional technology in a store attached to that data center, this kiosk edge data center, to ensure that you understand how inventory is moving throughout the store. So we'll talk a little bit more about this in the next couple slides, but how working with an integrator like Insight, you can actually continue to expand some of your digital transformation and footprint in an integrated and efficient and managed and secure, supportable way.
That's awesome. And it's so funny, Tiffany, you said the happiness of the customer, and I'm sitting here listening to you guys thinking, it would be incredible if every single retailer or anywhere that I went had this kind of technology. These examples are really cool, and they sound like really competitive ways for brick and mortar to compete at the same level of personalization and convenience that people we're used to now. With everything that we do online, the experience online is so easy. So this really seems like a very, very competitive way to keep them in the game. And the benefits, obviously, it's both the customer and the business. It seems really, really obvious. At the end of the day, though, we all know that it comes down to the dollars and the cents. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you, will you break it down for us? What are the realistic business outcomes here?
Well, actually, I think you and Tiffany both just hit on the core of the benefit here, which is You have to think differently about these examples when you're looking at it from Jennifer's perspective as the end customer, or if you are the bank or the quick serve restaurant or the retailer. So let's talk about it from Jennifer's perspective. As you both just highlighted, what you're really using digital transformation to do is to transform your customer's experience. And in these cases, it's delivering a personalized, relevant, efficient experience for your customer, and it's moving away from that traditional one-size-fits-all process that a lot of companies have applied for their customers for years. So that's from the end customer. But if you're the bank or the quick-serve restaurant and the retailer, it's also fueling operational efficiency for you. So in many ways, what we're doing is we're automating the low-value add activities and the administrative activities and allowing the staff, whether it's in the retailer or the bank or the quick-serve restaurant, to focus on client service. So they get an operational efficiency benefit, but they also get the opportunity to get their staff focused more on their end customers.
Right, absolutely. And Tiffany, so Intel, super innovative company, and why did Intel choose to partner with Insight on projects like this?
So many of our partners and many of the end customers that we work with and clients face a lot of challenges with digital transformation. They also are facing them across a family of verticals. And if you think of the smart cities example of Houston, any one of these smart cities is really a family of verticals. And so when we think about the family of verticals or industry, one of the biggest challenges anyone faces in designing these solutions is the use of multiple partners. And if you look at the study done by CRN recently, nearly 80% of IoT solutions require multiple partners. So if you look at Insight's SSI model, they actually have a tremendous advantage because IoT solutions can take a long time to develop. And in order to speed up that transformation process, not only for the customer, but also the development cycle, there need to be a lot of different technology pieces involved, and there's always an interest to reapply the innovations for reuse. And so the benefit around using someone like Insight is it's really around time to delivery being faster than independent and very diverse in vertical partners. So when we think about this benefit of working with a super solution integrator, the real area is not only around faster time to value, but it also allows, as you as an end user or company or a partner choose to expand, it allows you to append on additional capabilities, additional technologies, and additional opportunities to address pain points. And so if you start with your first IoT solution with a super system integrator, you start with basically your toe in the pond. And then as you look at appending on additional pieces of technology into solving additional pain points, you really need to be working with some kind of super system integrator. So we talked about that Kiosk example, and then you start appending on RFID technology. This is a place where you started maybe with one use case or one pain point that might have been looking at a chatbot as a kiosk interacting with a person, but then you might want to append on and link together this RFID environment that maybe you were having manage your inventory, or you decide you want to start with that. This is where a super system integrator can start looking at how to take what assets they've already developed, maybe developed for the quick serve restaurant, and start pairing them together under a single architecture. And when you start to think about what that means, you start thinking about manageability, you start thinking about some of these secure environments. So when you think about this time to value concept of what a super system integrator can bring, you think about, this design of the intelligent virtual concierge, this whole kiosk piece. You think about developing the solution, how much work it is to develop these human interfaces, software and analytics. You think about the right sizing and optimization of the solution, and looking at how to customize the workloads, how to reapply some of the artificial intelligence to solve the same problem in different industry verticals. And you also think about the distribution of compute. One of the biggest challenges of IoT end-to-end is how do you plan this distribution of compute? How can you reapply artificial intelligence that you might have written a code base for to operate in the cloud? And let's say you have a usage model that requires it in the kiosk at the edge. How do you port that back and forth? So super system integrators have created workload analysis and have built machines to basically comprehend some of these complexities. The other piece is when you start to think about how do you deploy and manage, there's two very important pieces around deploying solutions across a large number of locations and also being able to support these from a break fix, from a pushing a new security patch or managing the environment and providing some remote secure management. So this pathway to doing solutions at scale across a variety of environments, it's really important to be able to work with really a super system integrator to achieve that end game.
Perfect. So Mike and Tiffany, thank you so much. I am now going to have all of our speakers back, and I'd like to jump into some Q&A with you guys. So Matt, Jason, Mike, and Tiffany. The first question that we know that many in our audience have. So it's, I have an idea, I don't know where to start. How do I get a digital transformation project off the ground? Jason, you want to take this one?
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. And actually, I'd like to, Matt Quirk, thank you for the question. I'd like to maybe tackle this and yours in one. So really, it can be as simple as I have a pain point trying to locate a certain asset or security or solve for liability. So it's a very specific, simple use case, pain point, trying to drive efficiency. And then it could be, on the flip side, a very larger organization looking to change. So it's an either or and an and for that matter. So if I speak to the larger aspect for a moment, one of the to get to the end answer here is Insight and Microsoft and the ecosystem partners such as Intel can host a business model workshop. And what does that mean? Is really there is a methodology where we'll sit down with that end customer and or partner. So it could be a business model workshop that is for a partner company that's looking to drive business and or digital transformation, or it's for the end customer that we're all working together for. So it pivots off the growth strategy and a competitive strategy, and it's really asking the question, how do we plan to grow, and what do we hope our organization looks like or will be in 5 years? So backing into the growth strategy and competitive strategy is understanding the value prop and asking these hard questions around what capabilities do we have today? What do we need to fill? Is it in-house? Is it something that we can leverage? Is it an acquisition? Is it a merger? What do the customer relations look like? The channels. What are the market and customer segments we have today or that we need to go after? What does the cost structure look like to develop the value prop? How much will it cost to subsequently deliver on it? The revenue streams and pricing model. So there's a lot to that, but these are hard questions that it's important for many companies, including us, ask to help us evolve and transform over time.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. Mike, I'm going to send this one over to you. What service capabilities does Insight bring to the table?
Sure. We touched on some of these through the examples, and Jason and Tiffany just highlighted some of these as well. But part of what's unique about our super system integrator model is that we bring a full range of services. So we can do the ideation and discovery that Jason just talked about. We can design and architect a solution for you. We can help build a minimum viable product so you can do a proof of concept. We can develop the complete robust solution. We can then deploy it and drive adoption across thousands of locations like branch banks or retail stores. We can help architect, design, and implement your private and public cloud infrastructure. That's the foundation for these types of solutions. And of course, we can source all of the required hardware and software product required to enable this. And then lastly, we can provide secure managed services for that full solution on a 24/7 basis to ensure that the operation and security and availability of that solution is strong.
Perfect. Tiffany, is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest opportunities that I see for working with Insight is really around their services arm. When we think about IoT devices, we think about putting them out almost like a satellite, and we have to figure out how to manage them and how to make sure they're secure. And we think about the thousands and the millions of devices and the billions of devices moving out. We have to think about how they will be managed securely. And this services arm that Insight has is a huge value proposition for their clients. So this IoT break-fix challenge, how do you make sure you can change the batteries? How do you know if it's a sensor or a battery that's broken? How do you identify a sensor that might be sending erroneous data, or has it been compromised through a security breach? How do you manage all of these pieces and ensure that you've also got an ability to go out when you identify a problem to actually shut them down, replace them, and create a management process where you have a strong logistics system and you can monitor these securely. And I think one of the pieces that Insight brings to the table is having that entire closed-loop system, and from their business over time, they've been able to create an environment that allows them to create a secure and managed space for their clients and also for solutions that they implement. These are some very important tenets of IoT, and through their near scale and through their technical expertise, they're able to support some of these complexities.
Perfect. Thank you, Tiffany. Now, Matt, taking into consideration everything we've talked about today, who is a good fit for a Super Solution Integrator?
Yeah, and the obvious answer is everybody, right?
Right.
But no, I think the reality is they fall into two camps. One is the large enterprise organization that has large budget to tackle a really significant digital transformation journey. So as I mentioned, a firm that's this might be an extreme example, but spending hundreds of millions of dollars to completely transform a large Fortune 500 organization, and they logistically need support in managing all the complexities of that journey. So I think that's one category, and we work with a lot of clients where we act as that general contractor, but there's dozens of subcontractors and different capabilities that we're bringing to the table to help them achieve that outcome. So really those super complex big projects. But I think the other category is the smaller organization that's looking to take advantage of the reusability that we talked about earlier, where they don't have, a significant budget to take on an enormous project. They're looking to get value out of a smaller size investment, where they're okay, going with a solution that's maybe already 80% complete, and then we can just tweak it for their specific business scenario. So, I mentioned the cases of maybe a restaurant that wants to do food safety. That's not something where, because we've already built that IP, they don't have to go and pay for that to be developed each and every time. They can take advantage of the partner ecosystem that we have, the sensors that we've already connected in, the project logistics and roadmaps that we've already proven in the field, and the IP that we've written to integrate all those capabilities. So whether it's a big company or a small company, I think there are benefits from this SSI model for everybody.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Matt. And Jason, it looks like we have a follow-up question. If you want to jump in and talk through that a little bit.
Oh, great. Yes, absolutely. So it's really building on what I mentioned earlier, the business model workshop. So let me give an example of what doesn't work, because typically this requires a day or two. And we have run these in the past where we don't have the C-level decision makers in the room, so we spend very productive amount of time building out what an organization may need to do to help transform, and then it gets run up to the appropriate decision maker, and it falls flat. So influencer also needs to be inclusive of the decision maker when we have these. So it's important, and we do this today, that we have C-level representation across the board, whether it's CIO, CTO, et cetera, whoever that decision-maker person may be. So that's very critical on the front end before going into one of these transformative business model workshops.
All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, so we are through the questions that we have. So I want to close this out with really my favorite part of any Q&A. We want to do a lightning question. So panelists, I'm going to ask you in 30 seconds or less to tell us why should companies be excited about this new digital transformation hero, the SSI. All right, so Mike, let's start with you.
Thanks. I'd say three simple reasons. One, accelerated time to value. You just heard Matt talk about that. Second is to provide an entree into other digital innovation initiatives. You heard Tiffany touch on that. And third, this is a lower cost approach than growing your own, if you will.
All right, perfect. Tiffany, how about you?
One of the biggest concerns you hear about IoT is security, and it's a really valid concern. The bigger the solution, the more complex the security challenges are, and there's a bigger security surface area that needs to be addressed. So one of the things that I'm super excited about with the SSI model is really the ability to provide a consistent and secure management of a solution. It's not piecing together a bunch of different piecemeals. It's an end-to-end security strategy. It's a really important point of this, and I'm really excited that Insight can pull together something like that.
Awesome. Thank you. Jason, how about you?
Yeah. So look, digital production, digital disruption, we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, all of us. So we should all be excited that we have a partner such as Insight at a global level that can act as that super solutions integrator to help us achieve our goals so we're all thriving in 5, 10, 15 years.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Matt, let's go over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we simplified the solution and deliver an outcome so our clients can focus on their core business.
All right, fantastic. So at this time, I just want to thank all of you. Panelists, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing everything that you did. Also, to all of you who attended, just on behalf of me, our panel, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for taking a deeper look at digital transformation and the role of the Super Solution Integrator. I encourage you to check out the free resources available on the right panel of your screen, and please feel free, if you have any questions at all, to reach out to any of us. And thank you again, and have a great day.